Good day. This is your hillbilly historian coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee. Today, I want to talk to you about one of the biggest myths in American history. Walter Cronkite. Yes, Walter Cronkite, the so-called most trusted man in America. Let me tell you something. CBS and Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and that bunch were as bad back in the 50s and 60s and 70s as they are today. They just did a better job of hiding their falsity, their false presentation of the news, their lies. They were a lot better at disguising their lying back then than they are today. Today they're just flat out lying and don't care whether you believe it or not. They want you to believe it. They want to propagandize you. But they're just blatant liars today. Everything is a lie. But Walter Cronkite had his communist Marxist influences as well. And Dan Rather was one of the most corrupt-minded people. I rank him right up there with Hillary Clinton. He was a sorry piece of dog crap and terrible man, terrible. No ethics at all, no morals at all. But Walter Cronkite wasn't much better. You know, in Vietnam War, and I had my doubts about the Vietnam War. I've expressed them. I think there's a lot of stupidity caused that war. A lot of stupidity from people that are supposed to be intelligent leaders, and boy, they're not. They're moronic, crazy people. And Walter Cronkite. But anyway, during the Vietnam War, we had a thing called the Tet Offensive, and it was the Vietnamese attempt to drive America out of Southeast Asia, drive the United States out. The entire Tet Offensive was designed to destroy the American military and get us to leave. Now, we had two enemies at that time. We had the Viet Cong, which was the communist in South Vietnam. They were resident communists who lived in South Vietnam and fought against the Americans. Then we had the NVRA, North Vietnamese Regular Army, from North Vietnam. So we had two enemies we were fighting. And the Tet Offensive was to put both enemies against us simultaneously and drive us out of Southeast Asia. Now, the Tet Offensive started with 160,000 Viet Cong, the communists in South Vietnam. They were supposed to attack, guerrilla-wise, every station we had in South Vietnam. In Saigon, the embassy, everywhere. And they did. They attacked all over South Vietnam. And then the NVRA was going to take out our base at Khe Sanh. That was supposed to be our Dien Bien Phu. They were going to kick our butts at Khe Sanh, and that would be our Dien Bien Phu. And so they threw everything they had, artillery, tanks, infantry, everything they had against Khe Sanh up near the DMZ. And the American boys had one hell of a fight on their hands. But after about 4 months of the Tet Offensive, in around May, we fought the Battle of Hue. We defeated the Viet Cong at every single station in South Vietnam. We whooped their butts everywhere they attacked us. We didn't fold anywhere. And we finally pushed them into a big fort in the city Hugh on the Perfume River, and basically we wiped their butts out right there in that fort. At the end of the Tet Offensive, the Viet Cong couldn't find 3,000 men standing upright. We wiped them out. We totally destroyed the Viet Cong. Now, up at Quai Son, the NVRA hit us with everything they had: tanks, artillery, infantry. They shelled us. Our boys up there put up a fight like you wouldn't believe. And we kicked their butts. We kicked their butts. You just can't find better fighting men anywhere in the world than these good old American boys. Our training methods work. And at Quai Son, we kicked NVRA. We kicked their butts. So we won a tremendous victory against the Viet Cong and the NVRA. We won the Tet Offensive. It's one of the greatest victories in American military history. One of the greatest one-sided victories in American history. And there stood Walter Cronkite in front of his camera, telling the American people, this so-called most trusted man in America, lying to the American people about how America got their butts kicked. The American military lost the Tet Offensive. The American military has been lying to America. The American military can't win. The American military cannot, no way, win against the Vietnamese. And of course, the deep state Marxist and communist in D.C., the Democrat Party, they basically believed every word he was saying because he was calling the shots. It was like they pass out what their people are supposed to say, and they say it. And, you know, it's sad when CBS, NBC, and ABC, all three say the exact same thing every night because they're told what to say. They're handed the news outlet, the press releases, and they're told what to say. And Walter Cronkite stood there telling the American people that we lost, that General Westmoreland couldn't do his job, that he was lying to the American people. And this was on the tail end of one of the greatest victories. I mean, this is so detrimental to the American boys who die for this country and fights they shouldn't really even have been there, but when they're sent, they do the job. They really do the job. And after Cronkite, after that 1968 Tet Offensive early in the year, and Cronkite telling us how we lost, he demoralized the American soldier. He demoralized the people at home. And, of course, they propped up the protesters to the war and all that and everything. And so America has to suffer the lies that come out of CBS. People like Walter Cronkite, Dan Rather, and all the liars they have today. Out of CBS, ABC, and NBC. And people actually trusted them back in the 40s and 50s and 60s, but not anymore. But they were lying to us back then as well as they are now. It's just gotten a lot worse. They just think that, you know, if they can't lie small, if they lie bigger, that we'll believe every word they say, and that seems like that's where it's going. But anyway, don't believe them when they tell you Walter Cronkite was a man of honor, because he was a dishonorable American, communist, Marxist all the way. And this is your hillbilly historian, Coming to you from the hills of East Tennessee to tell you the truth, the sole truth about our nation, and I can back it up. You guys have a good day. Thank you much.